All right, welcome back to episode number 52 of Happy Hour with Heather and Guest. As always, I'm joined by Heather. Good
Hello.
to see you again. Uh,
Thank you.
as always, I am looking much younger today. For those of you who can't quite put your finger on it, it's because I shaved off the mustache. But for those of you who are huge fans of it, don't worry, it'll probably come back at some point. Um, but today it was my turn to suggest the bands and your turn to suggest the tracks. So we're going to kick things off with a group called The Bees Made Honey in the Vane Tree. They are from Stuttgart, Germany, and they're credited on Bandcamp as being psychedelic, doom, and shoegaze, which, if there is a more perfect union of music for in your wheelhouse, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Those, as soon as I recognized that that was the categories, I was like, oh, this is perfect.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we listened to two of their albums. The first one is called Medicine, and this was the one. I think I had. There's an album by the band Earth called "The Bees Made Honey in the Lion's Skull," which I believe is from the Bible, the story of Samson. Um, so I think I had been searching for that, and this probably the algorithm was like, oh, well, this is similar because it's bees making honey, where the derivation is from the vein tree. But I was like, let me give, and I was like, oh, well, this is all. So so let's try it out. So you had suggested the first track, "Every Night I Walk the Same Trail of Thought."
Yeah. First of all, I love the band name and the title of this song is it's so good. This is gentle doom. I like to call it gentle doom. It has wonderful post-rock and doom gaze elements, atmospheric doom and ambience that slowly builds in power and intensity. I love that it doesn't rush. It takes its time and it really does a great job of just pulling you in.
Yeah, this first of all, again, like you said, this the title is incredible. Every night I walk the same trail of thought. Um, I mean, I could spend hours just reflecting on what that might mean. Uh, I feel like this would be the song. You know how if you time it right, you can play Pink Floyd's "Dark Side of the Moon" and sync it up with "The Wizard of Oz." Are you familiar with that conspiracy theory?
No.
So it's something like by the time the MGM lion roars the second time, you hit play on Dark Side of the Moon, and it's supposed to line up like there's a scene where when Dorothy is singing, she like looks up and it's timed exactly when you hear a plane in one of the songs. So it looks like she's reacting to the plane flying. Someone who's clearly under the influence of something figured this out. And I remember I did it once when I was in college, and I was obviously under the influence myself, but I was surprised at how much of it coincidentally lined up. And then Roger Waters was interviewed once, and someone asked him about it. He's like, "Oh no, there's no we. That was completely unintentional." That being said, I feel like there's a movie out there that this song would line up to similarly. Like I feel like this would be the perfect song to be timed with a movie, and then there'd be a conspiracy that I would. Yeah, man, have you seen that Every Night I Walk the Same Trail of Thought lines up perfectly with Shawshank Redemption, or something like that, like when he's crawling through the pipe. Um, the other, I listening to the song, I felt like I was in a boat out on the open water, just sailing toward bliss, and this song was playing. And then the winds pick up a little bit as the song increases in intensity, and I need to cut the jib or tack and jive or whatever, you know, whatever nautical terms, but it's still fun. Like it's not like a gale or a hurricane is coming. And then you just go right down the rabbit hole of the psychedelic elements to it. So it was a great song to have on a Thursday morning when we're recording this. And then next up off of Medicine was Sail Away One.
Yeah, and this song, it hits you with the heaviness right away, and then there's these wonderful psychedelic elements, and then it gets back to the business of being heavy again. The boom, boom, boom of the bass and the drums and the guitar floating over the top. I I even had not the side head nod, I had the forward head nod, but I even had that head nod going.
Nice. That's awesome. Uh, yeah, this one I wrote it opened much more sludgy, so or heavier than the previous track, and then so again using the boat metaphor, it's like the storm is brewing, and then the storm fades away, and you're back on the boat. But this time, I felt like it was a kayak. You're on a kayak going down a river, and the current picks up as the tempo shifts with the song. So this time it was a kayak analogy. But again, all the elements are there: doom, psychedelic, shoegaze. It's just a really cool, relaxing atmosphere. And then the last track off Medicine was Sail Away 2.
Yeah, and this is the opposite of Sail Away 1. It starts out soft with subdued vocals. He sings sail away, sail away. And then the heaviness kicks in for a bit, and then it goes back to the lighter and more ethereal. It gets that way towards the end. And it ends with the guitar. It just gets softer and softer and softer. So I really, really enjoyed that.
Yeah, this one I felt like Sail Away 2 was continuing the journey from Every Night I Walk the Same Trail of Thought. Um, there were, like you said, it went back and forth between light and psychedelic, and then that approaching storm. But the storm is never threatening to capsize the boat. And again, for those of you out there who are not nautically inclined, capsize means like to flip it over. So the storm of heaviness is there, but it's never something you have to worry about. Like there's some bands when it gets oppressively heavy, you're like, uh-oh, this is going to completely overwhelm my senses. But you don't really get the feeling that that's going to happen. So I'm really glad you enjoyed Medicine. And then
Yeah.
the next album was called Grandmother.
Yeah.
And the first track was Craving.
Yeah. The guitar in this is so beautiful. The vocals are ethereal, and I really felt this music. I like how each instrument gently comes in. The song feels very doom-gazy to me, and that's my favorite genre of music. So this was such a joyful listen for me. I like how the intensity picks up, but it's more subtle. With the intensity, it gradually gets there.
Yeah, it's interesting how we're both going to say similar things. I wrote this was back to more of a subtle psychedelic shoegaze element until the end when there's a trickling in of doom. So yeah, I mean, again, I'm really glad you like the music. I thought you might, but the fact
Yeah,
that we're both appreciating the same things about it just confirms, that our tastes run similar,
yeah,
which is awesome. And then the next track was the title track called Grandmother.
yeah, and it has a really heavy, low tone, but the lightness of the guitar, it makes it seem less heavy. Although I think this album is heavier than their previous album. Towards the middle, it gets so heavy, and the drum pattern. I just thought the drum pattern was absolutely incredible. It's amazing how it goes from one heavy part to another. And like you said, it doesn't feel overwhelming. It just kind of flows from one part to another, but it still manages to keep the beauty of, the music is still throughout, even the heaviness. It's quite beautiful.
Yeah, this one I felt again started off with a sludgy tone, just like Sail Away One did, with heavy bass. This I felt was the most doomy psychedelic. Um, and the title Grandmother reminded me of the album by King Diamond, Them, which is a concept album about his grandmother. In fact, I think there's a song called Grandma, or I just remember he says something like, what are you coming down the stairs, Grandma? Uh, but yeah, this one gave me the sense like, okay, this is clearly about his grandmother or a grandmother or someone's grandmother, and it was really cool. Again, less of the subtle light psychedelic, more of the doomy, which I really liked. Um, and then the last track, Dionysus.
Yeah, this song it's mostly instrumental. There are some vocals. There's just two verses. It says, "Stumbling down Redwood Grove, now the oil runs through my hands, seals the cracks and fills the creases. Shivering choir sings, and the dew drips from my eyes, forming pools around my arms." That's all the lyrics there are in the song. And I tried to contemplate the meaning, like the meaning of those lyrics and how it ties in with Dionysus. I couldn't put it together. So
Yeah, well, for those of you out there who aren't mythologically inclined, Dionysus was the Greek god of wine and partying. He's essentially an artist's uh, the Greek god that artists would want on their side. Um, and yeah, this one I felt like you'd mentioned, because there are few lyrics. I felt like this song would be playing for like a ritual of some sort. Like if you and I were attending some kind of ceremony or ritual, that this song would be playing in the background. Like as we went up to, take refuge or do whatever while we were wearing, bejeweled robes. I just wanted to say bejeweled robes. But yeah, and it's got many of the similar kind of doomy psychedelic elements that yeah, no, this was a great. Again, I had only been familiar with the song Medicine, so I was excited to go back and do a deep dive on their catalog. But yeah, I recommend. They're out of Germany. I think they're playing a lot of gigs now in Europe. So if you get the chance,
oh, I saw they had a gig with Low Orbit, so that was kind of cool seeing that.
yeah, yeah, I wasn't aware of that, but I will definitely. This was a band that I will have in the rotation. So,
Yeah.
um, and then next up we leave Stuttgart for Oakland, California, to check. Unless you want to go to Paris, France. You want to go to Paris or Oakland?
Let's go to Oakland.
Okay. So the Worship of Silence out of Oakland, California. The album I suggested was called In the Early Hours. What are your thoughts?
And this came out in 2016. I really really like how much emotion the singer conveys. The do music with the low tone and the soaring vocals, it's an incredible mixture. The vocalist definitely has some chops. I was really impressed. That's honestly my favorite part of the record was the vocals just absolutely blew me away. I mean, what a range. What a range. I like how the album, this album has 3 songs. I feel like it's a beginning, a middle, and an end. I thought the mix of the drums and the guitar was perfect. There's really heavy parts and there's also light, ethereal parts. The end of the record, where it's mostly just guitar and vocals, I thought was really beautiful. I really like how diverse this album is. Um, I I definitely view this as a work of art.
Yeah, I uh I think I discovered this band when I first moved to Virginia. So probably around, well, you said the album came out in 2016. So
Yeah.
I had been living here for 2 years already, but that's probably, I, I, I don't remember how I found them. I remember though that the song "It's Not Better Than the Drugs" was the song that sort of hooked me. Um, I think just "It's Not Better Than the" is in parentheses, and the song is just called "Drugs." But it was a unique song, and you're right. I mean, the vocals are really what makes the jam. It's really melodic, um, and I just remember being captivated by that. Uh, but you're right. The three songs are sort of radically different. It's melodic stoner doom. That's like the umbrella term that encompasses the whole album. And I really hope they're still making music. I mean, they haven't. I don't think they've released anything since 2016, so it's been a while. But
Yeah. I even did some research to see if I could find anything, and I came up with nothing. So
yeah, I
you're
don't.
right. I hope you're right.
I do too. I don't. I mean, they're really. They should be making new music. That's my hope,
Yeah.
or at least still together. But either way, I felt like this was a great. I know they have another album that's out, um, that I think they made before this one. So there's more music to be found, but I really hope that they're still creating. Um, and then last but not least, we have War Pigs from Paris, France. The album was called Beasts.
Yeah, and this was released in 2020. This album really intrigued me. It was not what I was expecting. It was actually better than what my expectations were. I really like those kind of surprises. Lots lots of great riffing, and another, the voice, that voice. It's like Leonard Cohenish, but like at a little bit of a higher register. I almost felt like I was listening to music from another time. There's some storytelling aspects to the songs. There's some cool psychedelic parts, some cool stoner parts, lots of fuzz. It's like psych with swagger. It was a really fun listen. I followed them. I followed them on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and what they have I think is really unique. I had to mention too the link. The link where you can order from them is called Kiss Kiss Bank Bank. Well done. Well done. That rules.
Yeah, well, I mean, I I wanted to talk about them, listen to them more, just because their name was War Pigs, but it's War Pigs with a slashed O, or so it's W O with a slash through it R, um, or an O with a stroke, as I because I did a little bit of research. Um, so really, I had no idea. Like you said, I had no idea what we were in store for, really. Um, and then the music turned out to be a surprise. So again, I also didn't expect it to be what it was, and as good as it was. And they're billed as a heavy psych band from France, but I feel like there's more going on in the songs than just heavy psych. That's like a shortcoming description. Like I feel like there are a lot more elements to it. Um, yeah, I mean, I only listened to Beasts, but I know they have, I think, a self-titled album as well. And this is just the start of my going down the rabbit hole of War Pigs. So I will be checking them out, um, as well as the beat. I feel like all three of these bands I will have in the rotation. And yeah, I'm thrilled that you enjoyed it as much as you did.
Yeah, and I know it was kind of by accident, but the three bands, they really did, like all three of them went so well together, you know? Like the
Yeah,
style of music that they play, they just all went really well with each other. So, I mean, definitely making a playlist, you could put these, you could put the albums on a playlist and they definitely flow with each other.
yeah. That I mean, again, that was accidental, really.
Yeah.
I think there had I think the Bees Made Honey in the Vein Tree and War Pigs uh, were two of the bands that I had meant to be in this episode together, and then I think I substituted the War of Silence for a third band. So I guess maybe the universe was like, "Hold on, I'm gonna have you change this so that it flows better."
Yeah.
I agree with you. They all synced up really well.
Yeah.
Um, so cool. So yeah, I would say check out all of these bands: the Bees Made Honey in the Vein Tree, the Worship of Silence, and War Pigs. And I think we're planning on taking next week off for Thanksgiving, but
Yes.
we'll be back. We'll be back in 2 weeks. It'll be Heather's turn in the rotation.
Yes.
But yeah, we've surpassed 50 episodes. We're at 52. This was 52. We're approaching 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 with no end in sight. It's we're just gonna keep, yeah, as long as bands are out there making music, Heather and I will be doing the deep dive to bring you insight on what you should be listening to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So cool. Well,
Okay.
thank you so much again, and we'll be back in 2 weeks.
Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.